What do you mean?
To drink.
Uh, I don't know. I guess, what other drink do you have? Coke?
What?
What other drink do you have? Coke?
Well, Coke is out, but citrus and orange.
Orange.
Page 206. Page 3 of page 5 of 6. Page 5. AirServer. Done. Fold. Page 5 of 6. Page 4 of 6. Import. 411. Firefox. DirecTV. Initializing. Logging in. Menu. Button. Close. DirecTV. Selected. Browse for TV. Selected. Home. 1 of 8. Live TV streaming. 2 of 8. Button. Menu. Button.
Auditions when you finance through GM Financial. Find new roads at your local Chevy dealer.
I had so many reasons for not losing weight, for putting it off.
Oh, come on now.
Messages. App switcher. Phone. Phone. App phone. Active. Closing phone. DirecTV. Active. DirecTV. Menu. Live content selected. Browse for TV. Reload. Reload. Twitter. Johnny. Viewing shows time. Thursday.
28-day plan right now. With Lean 13, you'll get specially designed.
App switcher. DirecTV. Active.
Get over there.
DirecTV. Live content search. Selected. Browse for TV. Reload. Button. Reload. Asia Business Republic.
Inches overall your first month. Millions of people have lost weight on Nutrisystem.
It's time to take control.
Go online or call 888-526-THIN right now and get new Lean 13 with bars and shakes free.
With every early morning, every late night and moment away, with every click, call, punch, and paycheck, you've earned your Medicare. It was a deal that was made long ago, and AARP believes it should be honored. Thankfully, President Trump does too.
I am going to protect and save your Social Security and your Medicare. You made a deal a long time ago.
Now it's Congress's turn. Tell them to protect Medicare.
Sir, there's been a breach. We need your password so we can lock down the system.
My password?
Yes, sir, we need your password.
The password that I use?
Yes, sir, your password.
There's been another breach.
Sir.
Right, okay. IHATEMYJOB1.
I hate my job. One?
Want to get away? Now you can with Southwest fares as low as $59 one way. Yes to low fares with nothing to hide. That's transparency.
Once upon a time, a girl with golden locks broke into a house owned by 3 bears. She ate some porridge, broke the baby bear's chair, and stole some jewelry, a flat-screen TV, and a laptop. Luckily, the Geico Insurance Agency had helped the bears with homeowners insurance. They were able to replace all their items, including a new chair, from crate and barrel. Call Geico and see how easy it is to switch and save on homeowners insurance.
But we've known it since August 15th, and I think if you look at, the opposition party and how they portrayed the campaign, how they portrayed the transition, and now they're portraying the administration, it's always wrong. If you remember, the campaign was the most chaotic, by the media's description, most chaotic, most disorganized, most unprofessional, had no earthly idea what they were doing, and then you saw them all crying and weeping that night on the 8th. They're corporatist, globalist media that are adamantly opposed to an economic nationalist agenda like Donald Trump has. Hold us accountable. Hold us accountable to what we promised. Hold us accountable for delivering on what we promised.
Steve Bannon, chief strategist for President Trump, senior advisor to the president. A lot of people have never heard his voice before. It does not sound like Darth Vader. It sounds like a chief strategist for the White House, talking today at CPAC, the conservative meeting that's happening right now. Again, waiting for Vice President Pence to speak there. Let's bring in our panel. Molly Hemingway, senior editor at The Federalist. Susan Page, Washington bureau chief at USA Today, and syndicated columnist Charles Krauthammer. Molly, your thoughts on Bannon, his message, and kind of the delivery at CPAC, which is a different meeting this year.
It was a really great discussion between Reince Priebus and Steve Bannon. We've had so many things coming out of the White House anonymously sourced, and you don't know who to trust or whatnot, and they had a really great discussion. I thought it was interesting how he said that they would like the support of conservatives there. They also need them to hold the administration accountable so that all the other pressure that they're getting inside D.C. is to moderate the agenda that brought them to the White House, and he was asking the gathered crowds there to make sure that they do what they promised to do during the campaign.
Susan, clearly the fight against the media that he refers to as the opposition party is going to continue, and they think that that is a winning strategy.
He doesn't seem to like the mainstream media. I'm picking up from these comments, and he's certainly not backing off from a fight. So he said it's not going to get better, it's going to get worse. I guess I think that's right. If this kind of rhetoric persists and this attitude toward the press as the opposition party, the whole CPAC thing is interesting, I think, because I remember when Reagan was elected president, went to CPAC. That was the first CPAC I covered. I was then working for Newsday. And Reagan's embrace of CPAC signaled kind of the conservative takeover of the Republican Party. I think what we saw today was Trump's stamp on the conservative movement, because I didn't see any protests there against Trump, even though Trump is not a traditional conservative. I think there's some adjustments going on both sides, and that is a very significant political force if the conservative movement and the Republican Party are really in sync.
I mean, that's a great point, Charles. Last year, candidate Trump did not show up to this event. He did not win the straw poll. Ted Cruz won the straw poll. And today, his advisor and aide, Kellyanne Conway, said it's no longer CPAC, it's TPAC, Trump PAC.
Look, there's no tonic like winning. He came in third last year, and he was booed the year before when he talked about putting boots on the ground in the Middle East. No, I think Susan's right. This is a coming together of the conservative movement, or at least a part of it. This is mostly the younger, more edgy part. The one that would have been more receptive to a Milo presentation. And I think it marks an important moment. And what was interesting was Bannon. He came in, he had no horns. He sounded rather amiable. But on the other hand, he was absolutely unswerving. And he sort of gave intellectual heft to Trumpism. He was very specific about the three major goals: foreign policy, domestic economic policy, and what he called the undoing of the administrative state. The first volley in that war was the abolition of the backroom bill, or at least the directive coming from HHS. So essentially, the federal government has no business here, and in all the cabinet appointments. So I think it was a real plus for them.
Oh, that's
and
weird.
It presented a picture that for many conservatives, not all, some have trouble about the trade issue and the protectionism issue, but for many conservatives was a kind of homecoming.
Molly, I mean, the words economic nationalist agenda, he said numerous times, economic nationalist agenda, and also said that they're going to fight every day, and it's going to be a fight every day to kind of break the bull in the china shop.
Well, the term economic nationalist agenda he used in part to talk about how different parts of the conservative movement can come together under Trump. And he was saying whether you're a social conservative or libertarian, one of these economic nationalists, there is a belief that this is a nation and it has a culture and an economy, and that these things are important. I was still concerned, though. Kellyanne Conway said it's going to be TPAC instead of CPAC, and it was just kind of a funny joke about it being a Trump event instead of a conservative event. And it is wonderful to see, if you're a conservative activist, Trump reaching out to the grassroots. Mike Pence went to the pro-life march. That's unprecedented for any Republican administration. At the same time, there should be some separation between the conservative movement and the administration. They need to hold him accountable. You saw how President Obama completely took over his party, and it was very difficult to criticize President Obama from within the Democratic Party. Worked very well for him, but at the end of 8 years, there was kind of a shell of a party. He had lost, over 1,000 seats at the federal, state, and local level, and without Obama, there's not much there. So the conservative movement needs to understand where its interests align with Trump and where they don't align, and they need to keep holding him accountable to push their agenda.
Another speaker today, Susan, Betsy DeVos, the education secretary, talking about there's not a free lunch.
I'm Betsy DeVos. You may have heard some of the wonderful things the mainstream media has called me lately. however, pride myself on being called a mother, a grandmother, a life partner of 38 years tomorrow, and perhaps the first person to tell Bernie Sanders to his face that there's no such thing as a free lunch.
Obviously, Susan, speaking to the choir here about, school choice, and she's, hitting a lot of those tones. But when you look at the reaction to Betsy DeVos, and then you see what she said today, there is a disconnect.
There's one of the interesting things is who would have thought the education secretary would become the center of so much controversy, given the fact that it's a secondary agency, especially when you're talking about the federal role in education. And yet she was the cabinet official that needed Mike Pence to get his vote to get confirmation. And she has become a real rallying cry at these town hall meetings by Democrats challenging Republicans who voted for her confirmation. And on issues like school choice, on issues like the transgender rule, which I agree, that is a real, that's a moment that signals we're going to see this over and over again, I think, on other rules that were promulgated by the Obama administration that were important to liberals and got the opposition of conservatives and are going to be turned over.
Charles? She came out there like the new Sarah Palin with good syntax. I mean, she is she's sort of like Jean Kirkpatrick became in the 1980s, an unlikely target. And because she was a target and she prevailed, again, there's no tonic like winning. She is a kind of a heroine. I do think, at least if you can believe the reporting of the opposition, mainstream media, she was against reversing the Obama rule on the bathrooms. But nonetheless, she lost in that internal struggle to Jeff Sessions. But I do think that is a signal that they are going to take a wrecking ball to the idea that this country should be governed by unelected bureaucrats interpreting laws that were written 30 years ago that could not possibly have had these current issues in mind. And I hope they will apply that to climate change when that was not an issue at the time that the EPA was created, and should be cut out of the carbon issue, should be cut out of the EPA regulation.
So there was a lot of applause, obviously, at CPAC today for a lot of the president's policies, but it was not a day without controversy. There was a little bit of a cleanup in talking about the operation along the border. Here's the president and his Homeland Security Secretary.
You see what's happening at the border. All of a sudden, for the first time, we're getting gang members out, we're getting drug lords out, we're getting really bad dudes out of this country, and at a rate that nobody's ever seen before. And they're the bad ones. And it's a military operation.
There will be no mass deportations. Everything we do in DHS will be done legally and according to human rights in the legal justice system of the United States. And I repeat, there will be no use of military forces in immigration.
Molly, we have seen this a couple times where the president says something kind of off the cuff, and then there's a clarification. The White House is saying he was just talking about the type of operation it is, not the forces actually used. But the Homeland Security Secretary making it clear there's no military involved in this operation.
This will be the ultimate challenge in how to cover Donald Trump. I mean, it's not totally new. We've known for decades that he's very imprecise with his language. We have never had a president who is so imprecise with his language. At the same time, he communicates the larger issues. I think that resonates with a lot of people. And it's incumbent upon those of us who do cover him to notice what are the actual actions that are taking place as opposed to some of the overheated rhetoric, even though that overheated rhetoric is also quite useful as a bully pulpit to move public opinion on immigration, the media, and other issues.
I think it's obvious that he meant military style. So you just add that in brackets and everything is fixed.
I don't know. I think if you're a Trump supporter, I think you think it doesn't matter. This is kind of plain-spoken guy that we would like to work. But I think if you're not a Trump supporter, it is one more barrier to coming around to his side. I think it's one of the reasons he's had trouble expanding his base of support since Election Day.
I've never been known as a super fan of Trump. Yeah. I give him a pass on this.
Next up is President Trump making headway with Congress on tax reform.
What makes this simple salad the best simple salad ever? Heart-healthy California walnuts. The best simple veggie dish ever. Heart-healthy California walnuts. The best simple dinner ever. Heart-healthy California walnuts. Great tasting, heart-healthy California walnuts. So simple. Get the recipes at walnuts.org.
Your path to retirement may not always be clear, but at T. Rowe Price, we can help guide your retirement savings. So wherever your retirement journey takes you, we can help you reach your goals. Call us or your advisor. T. Rowe Price. Invest with confidence.
When you have a cold, you just want powerful relief. Only new Alka-Seltzer Plus, free of artificial dyes and preservative liquid gels, delivers the powerful cold symptom relief you need without the unnecessary additives you don't. Alka-Seltzer Plus liquid gels.
The first 100 days has live CPAC coverage. As conservatives gather for Mike Pence's critical speech, Martha has instant reaction and analysis. Tonight.
When it comes to learning more about family.
I did.
Was it hot enough for you?
Huh?
Was it hot enough for you?
Yeah, it was good.
It's hot in here.
Hot?
Yes.
I think so.